Do you think that we are glorifying GPS data?
Glorification is maybe the right word. And then it was the only thing that we had in our hands, more or less. But many clubs have only GPS data in their hands to decide whether a player is fit or not, whether a player is feeling good or not, whether a player is ready to play or not. And if you have players who believe in what you are doing, and when you let them feel that you care about what they are saying, then subjective data is a powerful tool.
Do you think that the AI way of analyzing data and the AI tools are eliminating the role of a sports scientist in a team?
When I speak with colleagues, they are frustrated if they're using ChatGPT because it doesn't work out like they want it. But the output is just as good as the input is.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that sports scientists make when using ChatGPT? All right, hi Yanni, and welcome to Football Planners Podcast. Really happy to have you here.
Hi Rafael, hi, thank you for having me.
How are you? Everything is good?
Everything's fine so far, everything's fine on my end. The weather is getting better now in Netherlands, so yeah, we can work back again on the pitch in a good manner. I like that.
Nice. So just for everyone watching, I've met Yanni through Football Planner. He's one of the users of the platform. He has an amazing background in both academic and applied research related to sports science in football, and I am sure he has a lot to share in the industry about his work and how we can all get better in our field. For today, we're going to discuss a hot topic, AI in sports science, and how to use different AI platforms like ChatGPT to analyze data and make better decisions. So, Yanni, just before we go into the topic, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself so all of people watching can get to know you more?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, my full name is Yanni Egyptian. Second name is like a French-speaking name. So I'm Belgian, born and raised in a German-speaking region of Belgium that nobody knows of, but should be famous as the third official language of Belgium is German. And so next to the German border, I was born and raised. Went to school there, and then for my bachelor studies, I went over to Cologne in Germany, studied there sports science, mainly focusing on rehabilitation and therapy. And then I did some internships during my bachelor studies. One was then in a rehabilitation clinic hospital. And then the next one was at Werder Bremen in the youth department until the second team, where I was then for 6 months the rehab coach for women Bundesliga, second team under 23, and the third German division, and all the youth teams. So I was getting in touch with more working in football over there. And then I decided, okay, only the rehab side is not precisely what I want. I want to go more into performance, high performance, and strength conditioning. So after my bachelor, I moved to Saarbrücken, another city in middle south Germany, to do my master's there in high performance sports, an English taught master. And there I focused and switched more on the high performance side, focusing more on strength conditioning, sports science, applied sports science in football, where I specialized myself in. And then I had the opportunity to go to Benfica Lisbon, to the under 19 team, and work there then for a few months in at the youth academy under 19, and focused there on sports science and applied more strength work in the gym with the boys. And then I got the chance after my master to go back to Belgium, to my hometown Eupen, to start then at the first team. So I was lucky to start directly with the first team in the first Belgian division in the Jupiler Pro League. Worked there for 3 years. Then I got a call from a head coach where I had good contact with, and moved over to a promoted football club, FC Dende. They promoted from the second division to the first. The head coach moved there, and he brought me along. We had a very successful time there, even though with limited budget, we managed to have a very good season. And then I got a call from my colleague here to join FC Utrecht and first team in the Dutch Eredivisie, and that's where I'm now. So having a 4 to 5 year path in the first teams of Belgian and Dutch professional football. Yep.
Good, very interesting. A lot of experience. I think most probably helped you to develop a really holistic approach to football, from youth to senior level, then rehab, performance, different countries, different coaches. Tell us a little bit about your current role in Utrecht, and how your role impacts the function of the team overall.
Yeah. So I was mainly brought in because I'm a really hybrid. I call myself like a hybrid a strength conditioning coach, performance coach, name it as you want. The thing is that, like you mentioned, I have also a good background from good universities in research, and I'm also doing my PhD right now next to the work. In the evenings, I'm focusing on my PhD. Then next to the work is back again at the Sports University in Cologne. So I try to combine both scientific evidence, research, still looking into the newest outcomes of studies, and then trying to apply this in practice, or alongside with my colleagues I had in the past, is to apply this in practice. So really the combination of evidence and so sports science and practice, something, the philosophy that I have. Many have this philosophy, of course. Everybody wants to work evidence-based, so that's nothing special or new. The thing is, how I fill in the role here is first that, how should I describe it? I find myself a bit free in the task where I can develop new innovations, let's call it like that, how I transform data and how I communicate the outcomes of the data, so like question and answer. And that's what I developed, or where I grew into the role this season. So next to share and divide the work in the gym and on the pitch with my colleague, I also focused next to this also on the data side. So not only managing the workload and the GPS data, etc., but also looking into how can we innovate the data that we have already, how can we make new reports and get the data across all departments and stakeholders, how can we communicate the data better or different, what do we need to select or throw out of the current reports. And like the topic we maybe discussed in today more in detail is, how can we use innovative technology to have innovative reports and maybe new insights in something where we can't get insights that easily if we just look at GPS data, for example. And that's why I was responsible for now this season to get this, to shape this. First, evidence-based working in practice, in the gym and on the pitch, 50-50 with my colleague, and then looking more into how we can innovate the data side here at the club.
All right, so that's really interesting. So let's start and kick off the discussion with the current issues with the way we analyze GPS data at the moment, or what was the trend before, what were the limitations back then, and what is the next step now on how we can move forward.
Yeah, good topic actually, because I was now reading the study where I'm not remember the authors anymore. I think also Martin Buchet was present in there. I don't know who was the first author, but the study is all about are we just constrained to just look at GPS data itself and what influences the match minutes and how's the fatigue of players on match day, which is the main outcome at the end is we prepare players to be fresh and perfectly fit on match day to perform at their best. And the paper which are many people are citing now on LinkedIn is like how many minutes does the player have in his leg, like a question from the coach to us as physical coaches, as performance coaches, many times asked. Actually, we are asking this ourselves a lot in the medical meeting in the morning if we have players coming back from return injuries and return to play. And return to competition, where we then say, okay, at which point are we right now? Where do we want to have the player? How many minutes can he play now at the first stage and maybe the second game, etc. We are unprepared to discuss this question that much as when I'm reading this paper as we thought beforehand. And at the end, it all comes down, like the paper said, and it's just more or less a citation, it all comes down to one of the most important factors is how the player is feeling on the match day itself. So what many of us believed before is that we look into the chronic load work in the chronic data in the acute workload phase, this week, this microcycle, the days before, the weeks before, what was his load. But it seems that all this doesn't matter that much as we thought before. It's more about the subjective feeling of the player on the match day itself. How do you feel? How fatigued do you feel? And probably if you do a counter movement jump to do neuromuscular fatigue testing, then you might see some different outcomes per player. And this might give you also very good insights. Difficult to do on match day, but this might give you insights. And that's what I find very interesting at the moment.
Yeah. So, do you think that we are glorifying GPS data as sports scientists the last couple of years, and do we neglect other stuff that maybe they are way more important, as you said? Maybe just doing a wellness questionnaire can give you a lot more answers rather than just looking into chronic data from GPS. Or do you think that that's what's been happening lately in the industry?
Yeah, you're right. So the word like glorifying is maybe glorification is maybe the right word, because and not to blame us in general, but it's the only thing that we had in our hands at the time. Now the last years is GPS was FIFA approved and certified. We can use it everywhere. And then it was the only thing that we had in our hands, more or less the only thing. Big clubs already had a lot more the last years, and of course doing a great job on combining a lot of things. But many clubs have only GPS data in their hands to decide whether a player is fit or not, whether a player is feeling good or not, whether a player is ready to play or not. Yeah. What can you say if you only have this in your hands, in your repertoire? Then you can only use it. So then over the years, people only had this and then said, okay, we base our decisions on load data and GPS data. Now more and more, in especially big clubs, they already use a convolute of many things that you have in your tool box. Subjective data, objective data, biomarkers, etc. You name it. Everything is now available. Some have the budget to pay for it, and put it all in an AMS system, in an athlete management software then, and to read out the data and the outcome, try to find answers to the questions. And therefore, GPS is not the only thing anymore. And I believe that if you have a well-taught squad, and if you have players who believe in what you are doing, and when you let them feel that you care about what they are saying, then subjective data is a powerful tool to combine, of course, with GPS data. Don't get me wrong, GPS data is still important, but maybe not as important, as you said, maybe not as important as everybody thought over the years. And we go a little bit back to also heart rate data to look internal load, to go back, what is the player giving us as a feedback subjectively in the morning. So I find this very interesting that also science is backing this, maybe to go a few steps back, let's say, to the basics, but then to go more into interaction with the players maybe.
Yeah, so I think now we start to realize that GPS is not the only thing, and that there are many parameters, some parameters that, as you said, we kind of forget over the years that we can use, and they are simple and really making an impact on how to make decisions. Now, the difficult part is to understand how to combine all parameters together so you make the best decision out of what parameters you have available. So how can we do that, and how can we use AI to help us analyze this information, as we're going to discuss more in depth now?
It was essentially it was a question that I asked myself before the season, where I fit this role in, and now how can I focus on getting the data across people, like the technical stuff, who don't want to look in depth into this, but it has to be simple and clear. So what came into, and I speak about my experience and what I now created here in this environment. I know that big clubs are already working with AMS systems, well structured, already putting in all information, contextual variables, and getting maybe the same answers that I was trying to find. Without AI, they are doing this maybe already with their own created environment and system. I know at Benfica, they had a very good data scientist who was putting everything in Microsoft Azure, in a cloud platform, building it himself. Many clubs are using AMS software and AMS systems to get the combination of data. And also we have this, but I was like, okay, if I want to have one report and I want to have answers to questions about our next opponent, for example, because the game is the most important, I wanted to have some answers about what is our opponent, how is our playing style, how is our physical condition right now, and to get answers across to the technical stuff. How am I going to do this? Is it only based on I download the reports that I have here in available already, or do I try to create something different and something else that maybe not many are creating? And I came up with a very unconventional idea, and it was just using ChatGPT. And in ChatGPT, you have the different GPTs, it's called. And I clicked once on the data analysis GPT, and on there you can upload data, different data sources. It can process many data sources at once, and then chatting with prompts around the data to find some answers. And my PhD project, for example, is all about combining the physical load with contextual variables of a game, and then to look into goal periods where goals happened, and to find out how players behave in a different position, in this environment and what happens there physically in a certain period of time. There are some studies out there already looking into this, and I was like, okay, this is very complex, but to get fast answers in a week of time, because every week we are playing, and with Europa League we were playing 2 times in the week, I need to get a combination of data very fast and answers very fast to the technical stuff. So what I did is in GPT analysis, in ChatGPT, I put in data that I got from the UEFA platform. On the UEFA platform, you can get contextual data like position, where do you play, how was the physical load, how many passes did the players play, the team, percentages of attacking and defending, etc., etc. Everything is based on CSV files and JSON files, etc. You get a lot of information out there as different sources. But I couldn't do anything with it because it was so much. It was an overload on information. And I thought, okay, this I know, this I'm not the expert in, and this I know, and this I have no idea about. So what I did is I uploaded all these files in ChatGPT, and then I saw, okay, it doesn't work out really much because ChatGPT is not processing it if it just uploaded. And I also had it with some colleagues, a discussion about it. And what I figured out is first, you need to do the basics to have good data quality, to clean the data, and to have very good data files. And then ChatGPT can work with it. So many are, when I speak with colleagues, they are frustrated if they're using ChatGPT because it doesn't work out like they want it. But the output is just as good as the input is. That's what I experience now. And so in detail, it's you need to delete columns. Not necessary, some are not necessary for information, you need to delete them. Wrong data points, you need to delete them. You need to clean the data, you need to make new tables and not just random data. You need to make clean tables that ChatGPT is easily understanding. And then context information, structure it in an easy way, like filtering what you need and not everything. So that's what I did. And then you can upload it and chat with ChatGPT like you give ChatGPT a purpose and a role. And that's what I experienced when I was looking some YouTube videos about how you should work with this new technology, AI, chatbots, etc. And what I experienced is you need to give ChatGPT a role. Like what I do always is I say, okay, you are now the head of sports science of FC Utrecht. You are responsible now for not only collecting the data, but working with the data and find an answer about this and this, or this and this question. And I need you to be the sharpest as you can. And then ChatGPT is in the background working with Python, with the statistical platform, to work with a certain role and a certain task on this question. And then you need to give clear step-by-step instructions. That's what I experienced now over the whole time. You can't give a whole bunch of information into the system, then it gets confused. You need to give step-by-step instructions, and then it works out. That's what I experienced until now.
Right. So obviously, the AI will give you an answer no matter of how good is the information you provide. Do you think that sometimes rushing to get an answer and just uploading or giving a very generic prompt or instruction to ChatGPT, we can actually have the opposite result of leading us into making the wrong decision?
Yeah, true. There is the so-called black box problem. Let's say where you just type in your input, you enter, and then you get an answer, but you don't know how the way was until this answer. So it's kind of a black box. You don't know what happened in the background. That's true. That's true. But what I always do is with the step by step instructions, you can follow what it's doing. So for example, you enter, you do the input of a file. And then what I do is I say, do this and that now, and give me the file as download again. So I can verify what happens from one step to the other step. And then with this file, I input it and I say, okay, from there on, you do this and this, but all the rest stays the same. And then I verify if one file to the other, what happened there, and if there is something wrong with it. And only if I'm happy with the file at the end, I ask the real question. And then I know that the answer is more or less, it's always a tendency. We all know that ChatGPT is not always fully right, and you cannot trust it 100%, of course. So what I did then back then is when you have step by step instructions entered into ChatGPT protocol as a prompt, very basic instructions. I verify step 1 to step 2, get the file out. Step 2 to step 3, get the file out, and I can see what's happening in between the steps, to overcome a bit the black box problem, to not understanding what is happening, what change in between. And then at the very end, about this certain file, I ask, for example, a question about the opponent physically to our profile. Can you see any patterns in playing style, formation usually used, physical output of certain players, main players, target players within the squad, and trying to work out there some information and answers, and then you can look yourself also a little bit into the data, and you will fastly find out if that is correct or not, if the data is not too complex in general. That's the main thing that I experienced. And like I said, the output is only as good as the input is. So good instructions, short prompts, give ChatGPT a role and a task, that it knows what this whole chat and purpose is all about. And what I usually do is I give it the role that I have at the moment. Be a researcher, be the head of sports science of FC Utrecht. Then it knows in which setting we are now within this chat. So that's what I find the most interesting, is that ChatGPT is more working efficiently and effectively if it knows what the purpose is.
Nice. So clear and simplify the data in a format that the GPT can understand. Then try to understand the logic of the analysis, so you make sure everything is correct. And then break down your prompts so you get the answers you're looking for. And again, you still need to be able to critically evaluate the response you're getting. Now, obviously, this is game changing because, as you said, in especially congested time periods, you cannot be fast on analyzing the data by yourself by just looking at everything. So if you are efficient with AI, you can get a much more holistic answer into what you are looking on doing. What are the main data sources you upload into ChatGPT, for example? So what are you looking to upload, and what are the answers you are trying to get back? Can you give us like a breakdown?
Yeah, of course. So I came up with the idea because the UEFA PAP platform, mainly first for video analysis, was giving us the access to their physical page. And on the physical page, you have context variables. So what happened, passing percentages, what happened on defense and offense side, target players, different kind of information. This is what I download, like context variables. Where was the match? And what you can see on the UEFA platform, and might also be available if you look into just broad the internet, is context information about the past games. So all games played in the Europa League from the group stage, I could have a download about the contextual variables, like basic statistical data from both teams of our opponent. For example, if our opponent, Lyon, played against Brandbergen, also our opponent, in Europa League, I could download the contextual variables and data, statistical data from their past matches in Europa League. This is one part, and the second part was then the pure physical download, pure physical load, walking distance, running distance, high-speed running distance, sprint distance, acceleration, deceleration, etc. All the physical parameters known, just in a CSV file, and then also some JSON files about some other timestamps. What happened with tackles? When was a tackle executed? Where was it executed? At which time it was executed? Headers won, headers lost, ground duels played. Which player played these ground duels the most? At which time, etc. So all this information, I think it was also as a CSV file. This is what I downloaded then from the UEFA platform, and there might be some normal leagues, where you can download such similar data as well from providers, from the past matches of your opponent and from yourself. And this is what I then cleaned the data to simplify the data, to have some clean tables, and uploaded these into the ChatGPT data analysis GPT to have a chat about this. And then to the second part, to the outcome, the output, what I get out as a result, is what I try, or what we as performance coaches, sports scientists try always, is get the message across to the technical staff who is not into data only and not looking only at the videos. So what I wanted is to get a visual appealing report combining football data and physical football data of our opponent and of ourselves, of our team, of our own team, and to combine or to look into both sides, our opponent and us, in a way like, how can we see patterns? How are we performing physically? How are we performing of some players? Do we have target players? Do we have some very good performers in different areas where nobody was thinking of? Because we are always saying, this is our best player. But maybe somebody else in the data is outstanding in some areas. And I try to filter out this. And what I also discussed and shared in another presentation, which is also online, is that, what I get out is a PDF report with a list of different areas, physically, table summaries about physical opponent and us, trends over time, over the last games, how do we develop in different metrics physically, what is the certain way of playing style, formation, target players, percentages of different parameters of contextual variables, and this as a summary. And what I wanted is, at one point I found it too dry. This report was just too dry, too pure. And to make it a bit in a modern way, and it was actually a bit funny, is I wanted to have more emojis in there. Like emojis, not only smiles or so, but statistics is emojis. A lightning for power. Bar graph emoji for this is about data. something like that, emojis,
To
to
make it
be
easier to read and understand.
yeah, exactly. To make it visual appealing for the coaches, for young and modern coaches also in our technical stuff, to find it attractive to read very fast, a few minutes of reading. And what I did was before, when we entering the the plane, when we are at games away for Europa League, we had a plane, and before entering the plane, I had the report ready before we flew over to our opponent's destination, and I sent this report so they can read during the way on our way to the destination. They can read it in the airplane, already the report, discuss about it, see advantages, disadvantages, trends, to discuss about the opponent, about our style of play. Do we want this? Do we want something different? Did we expect this, that this player was that good, that this player didn't perform at all in this parameter? And that was very interesting to get a conversation going. And sometimes the head coach, was picking up some things from the report and presenting it to the players. And it was in both ways, positive and negative points. It was very interesting to see.
I think what you're saying is really important, and for me the main point is what you said about time. So time is really limited. Probably you have just a couple of hours to create the report,
Yeah,
and also the technical, the physical stuff. They are also very busy, so they cannot spend hours in going through the data to understand it. So it also needs to be simplified and presented to a language that they have to understand in just a couple of minutes. So
exactly.
I think that's really, really valuable. So the main thing is like using the AI to be more efficient with all the available data we have to create a profile of most probably the next opponent,
Yeah,
and see how we fit, our current team fits with that opponent, and maybe in what areas we have advantage or the opposite. Now, the next question is the next step. And I will ask about sports science and strength and conditioning. What kind of decisions can you take training-wise during the microcycle? So how can you adapt based on a report? And if you want, we can discuss some theoretical examples of finding a specific trend and making a certain decision. Because at the end of the day, if we can analyze data but we cannot take decisions, then we're not making the most out of it, right?
yeah, 100%. That's true. So first, what you need is a modern and open-minded technical stuff. That's the first thing. That's the basis. Because if you get the message across, that's fine. But if, like you said, nobody's working with it, yeah, then it's useless. So the reports now in the last time when I did it for the Europa League games mainly, is that the reports were saying, for example, that the target players of our opponent are the fullbacks. They try to overload always on the left side with a name, this and this fullback, and he tries to overlap this and this player. He tries to come in the last third area of the pitch. He's the main crosser of the team. He has the most assists. He has the most touches. The left side, for example, where this fullback is the most physical one. They have a very good midfielder, central midfielder, a lot of touches, physically strong, dividing the ball always to the left side most, and playing into the back of our fullbacks. But because of that, I find, so I'm speaking on behalf of the AI now, I find out that the back of this fullback is very open, and if you try to play on your right side, so their left side, then on your right side in the back of the fullback, you have a chance to break through very fast with a triangle pass. You can go in depth. So that was one thing, for example. And another thing was that, For example, we had a game where the AI found out that the center backs, or mainly the whole defense line of our opponent, is very slow. So in all matches, the max speed and the high speed running meters and sprinting meters were very, very low in comparison to all the data that I've put in there. So we knew that the opponent's defense line, if we press them high, if we put pressure on them, that they cannot cope with fast wingers, with fast strikers from our own. They might take a decision of not letting you play an old slow striker from on our side, but maybe a young dynamic striker who can put pressure, being fast, can break the lines in between these slow center backs. To make now the transfer in the microcycle and on the pitch is we just had limited time. We just had 48 hours to prepare for a Europa League opponent, to then travel back 48 hours until we have a league game again on Sunday. So what we had is no physical work could be done in this short period of time, but a lot of tactics. And because sometimes the AI was saying, okay, if you want physically to work and to prepare this and that, you might also do and consider this and that. But you can't do this because physically you can't work in this short period. Players are still fatigued from the league game before. So we had just a lot of tactical work that we can work on. And that's what I also presented in another talk when we had a short conference here at our club. There's also a video out there where I showed video sequences of us preparing and training what ChatGPT already predicted in the report, more or less. And then I was verifying with video sequences. I asked our video analyst to get out videos from that game then to retrospective verify what ChatGPT had in the report. Did it really happen and came back in the game? And it was very interesting to see that first, some points we picked out the report and trained in the pitch. For example, we need to do fast crosses from one side to the other side to overload, for example, that left side. Because there in the back we can play off that fullback. And for example, the center backs are very slow, so do a long ball behind the center backs because they are slow. Try to get behind the back with the fast striker that we use. And we trained exactly this on reduced space tactically on the matchday -1 and matchday -2 before such a Europa League game. If it works out or not, that's another thing on matchday, but we trained these points. And then I was asking myself, did it really happen in the game as well? And actually, of course, you need to believe me or not, but of course, a few points came back in the game, and actually, the video sequences showing that we took out, showing that the report is not completely wrong. It shows some principles that we trained for, that we really executed the task and it happened, but also mainly what the opponent is performing and showing. And it really matches with all the data that you put in, that it really matches what the AI report with all the emojis, short quotes and bullet points it gives out. It really matches. So there are things and outcomes that are right.
All right. So the main outcome, I guess, is mainly tactical decisions when it comes to how we approach the opponent, maybe selecting, deciding which players are better to start or how to defend or attack. And when it comes to microcycle, it's mainly not much you can do on the physical side of things, as you said, in congested time periods, but maybe deciding what type of training you can use based on the available options you have, and also understanding training content, as you mentioned, like a lot of crossing was recovered. So usually practitioners will plan a crossing type session in an intensive environment, but if
Yeah.
you don't have the opportunity to run an intensive session, but obviously it's an important part of the tactics, then you need to find a way to adapt the session that physically it needs to be in a certain way, but tactically it needs to cover this element. So I
Yeah.
think overall this AI it improve like our decision making and how we understand the microcycle. And what you are really saying is that you are moving away from any traditional approach to periodization just because you have specific information about your team and you adjust constantly into every scenario, right?
Yeah, true. And it's also about not, if you don't have the time to work physically as the performance coach, then you would like to work at every end a little bit. Then you can mimic some things. You can produce some certain outcomes within training, like you can pretend certain outcomes in training and patterns tactically that would happen, what you expect that would happen on match day against a certain opponent. And it doesn't have to be physically demanding, but know that the players know and can memorize what you really want from them, and you tell them this and this is how we need to run and sprint. Now we train it on reduced space, half a pitch, three-quarter of a pitch, but on game day we want you to do exactly the same but on longer space, sprinting, etc. Players are still fatigued in the training, but then how, like that you can get the message across to the players, to make the transfer from what we see in video sequences and combining with information that we have from physical output, that you can give the information. Center backs, very slow. Full backs, very fast. Overload on the side, doing the most crosses from the left side. This and this and this and this. But if they have a low percentage rate of successful passing, successful shots, losing a lot of head duels, in aerial duels as center backs, then you know what their strengths and weaknesses are, and you can get like statistical technical data contextualized with physical data and vice versa, and get a few more information which you can implement and mimic in within the training on a training day where you don't have that much training time, because you're 48 hours after a game but also 48 hours before a game.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think it's all really interesting and it helps blend everything together. So you are a
Yeah.
sports science yourself, and we're discussing all the kinds of information that maybe we think is not irrelevant to our role, but at the end of the day, the more understanding you have about the game, the better decisions you can make.
Yeah.
So, but based on that and on all the things we just discussed, do you think that the AI way of analyzing data and the AI tools are eliminating the role of sports scientists in a team, or are they changing the role? Or what's your opinion overall on how AI is influencing the role of sports scientists in football?
Yeah, that's a delicate question and answer, because nobody wants to get replaced, of course. What I think, first of all, you need to put in the data. So somebody needs to put in the data. So that's the first step. So if there's no data feeding into AI, then AI can't work anyway. So somebody needs to put in the data. What I believe is that, of course, the workload first gets more because you have more opportunities and facing challenges because you have these tools now available, until I think it will drop, because you see it also in the industry. Many things can get replaced by AI, and jobs. I don't know if a sports scientist will get replaced. Maybe a pure data scientist might be replaced in few years or many years, if the development goes on like that. Like I said, first the data needs to be uploaded. So somebody needs to clean and have a good understanding of the data and put it in. So this job, yeah, you still know somebody needs to do. And at the end, AI, in my opinion, will never create the bridge from having the answers to delivering the answers in a proper way. So football lives from emotion, lives from good communication, lives from good people interacting within each other within this environment and within this setting here. It's a fast-paced, very dynamic setting. So talking within the stuff, within the technical stuff, is very important. Communication is very important. So getting the message across from first asking the questions, then having the answers, from the answers to the technical stuff, I think you still need somebody, human, to delivering the answer and to talk in philosophy, to talk about the answer, the outcome that you have in your hands now, and if this is worth to apply in the microcycle, in the tactical part of the training session or not. Is this something that the philosophy is matching the philosophy of the coach or not? And everybody can share his opinion about. And only with AI you can't get this. You will never get this. You still need human interaction. So maybe the role will change, the job will change, the application of this will come more and more, but I don't think that it will replace the human side of it, which you still
Yeah.
need.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think, in my opinion, it will help improve coaches in the sense of that the last couple of years, a lot of teams will hire a sports scientist just because he was skillful on Power BI or on Python, and they were just focusing on data analysis skills,
Yeah,
where coaching, being a coach is actually being able to interact, communicate, build relationships. So this part was neglected, but now I think the AI and the introduction of AI into sports science will allow practitioners to do both, because I think you will need less need to have high knowledge on data analytics if you have a process to understand how to use AI tools, and then you'll be able to focus back on the stuff that are more important, like, as you said, relationships with athletes, with staff, communication, and all this stuff. So maybe the role is going to change and become how it was before the introduction of data,
yeah.
but with the understanding and decisions coming from data. So I think everything is coming together.
Yeah, you need to think a bit outside of the box, and the you need, if you're working in football more and more, I think you need to have a football understanding of things, not only execution, physical exercises with ball, also without ball, but also with ball, and to know how to do it, what matches physical requirements of football players. That comes also down to data. So, what are the right questions to ask? What is the right message to deliver? Because some things that were written in these AI reports and outcome reports that I had, they were not worth to communicate. It's not interesting for us. Maybe interesting for other departments, but it was not interesting for the technical stuff at the moment. And then I delete it because it's not something that's important. On this side, you still need somebody filtering the answers, filtering the outcome, the data, and to get the message right across. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Yeah. So, and about filtering data and answers, what do you think is the biggest mistake that sports scientists make when using ChatGPT or AI in general to get answers?
Yeah, I think the same mistakes that I did at the first place. First it's trial and error at the beginning. One big mistake that I made is to give if we are now in a ChatGPT environment, in a chatting environment around data or about data, then it's you can't give too much tasks at once to the AI. If you do, then you need to give a certain structure, which first until which is the last one, or priorities, because otherwise AI still gets a bit confused about what is the main thing to do now. So, like I said, a step-by-step approach is the best that I found out now. Give one task at one time, and then working alongside this, and then of course trusting 100% just the data or the outcome. This is another big mistake, which I did also at one report, and it was funny because I entered data where the names of the players of our opponent were written in, but there were two players who weren't playing anymore at the club. They were already transferred, but at that point of time where I downloaded the data, they were still at the club. So AI was taking these players into our current report for the next match, but these players were already transferred in the winter period, so they weren't at the club anymore, but still present in the report. But they will not play because they are not in the squad anymore. And actually, I was like, I was lucky because first I delivered the report to our analyst, to our two video analysts, and to let them look over and to check if they can see things, like a double check, which is another mistake, like not doing this. Just rely on yourself on the data and sending it across. Maybe let it double check by somebody who is also into the topic right now. And our analysts, they were like, okay, very interesting, but there are two names in it. They are not at the squad anymore. They are not in the club anymore. They transferred. So, oh, okay, I need to check the data again. So I saw that the data were at that point in time, the data were already still with these players, which is not interesting anymore. So I threw out these and recreated all steps, and then got the correct report out. So the names were switched, the target players were switched, and to have it with the actual current players then. So a double check, also very important with people that are into the topic and have another point of view on this topic.
Nice. Yes, it's interesting. I mean, you can still make mistakes even just using data. So yeah, we need to be careful. And as you said, a second opinion, a second pair of eyes is always useful to have.
Yeah.
Now, is anything else you want to add to the AI topic? Just like we conclude this podcast, or anything as a general message to the coaches watching?
Yeah, I think first, as a message to many coaches, many sports scientists, is don't be afraid to make mistakes and just look into this topic, into this matter, because this is the future. I think AI will get better and better and better. There are every 2-3 months there is a new model released, which is an improvement of the previous one. So I think AI and data, working with data, gets better and better because mathematically in the background they are very good. You just need, like I say, easy, well-structured prompts, and then how you enter the prompts is what you get at the end as outcome. So I would recommend everybody to read into this topic, to get try and error within this field, work around, play around with this, find out what you can get. I had already talks with colleagues after my last time where I presented about this topic. They wanted to speak about this with me, how they can work with it. And I said all these things. Just don't be afraid to play around. Verify if this is correct, what you have as outcome. That's important. But go with the time, because if you're not doing it right now, I would not say it's like the internet thing back in the time, but if you're not going with AI right now, you will lose a bit. You will lose a bit on one end, I think, because the future will be what I guess is not only contextualizing the data or physical data for physical coaches, but also, and we are looking into this here as well for the future, is how to combine video analysis with physical data and contextual data. And this is what I think where AI, if it gets better in picture processing, video processing, and I don't mean deep fakes, producing deep fakes videos or so, but I mean analyzing current videos that we download and upload in AI. And I think the future is to combine insights from video images with CSV files in the background, with contextual variables, statistical variables that we have in our hands, collected by that certain platform or government, a government institution like UEFA, etc. And to combine this, see patterns, find the purpose in how you work, what are your strengths, your weaknesses, and to match this with video images. That's what I think is the future. So master the basics now, and then you are one of the very good ones when it comes to this in the future.
Yeah, I think the trends are constantly changing, and we need to be able and not just able, also willing to adapt to what's happening. I think that's really important to be able to constantly learn and improve. I want to say thanks a lot for discussing with you. I think it was a really valuable discussion. I think you are a sports scientist from the future, like going with the flow, and at the same time you still understand the importance of football interaction and how data comes in and fits together with that. Hope we can have another discussion soon about another topic.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thanks for having me. It was a good conversation. I could release a lot of information out there. No, it was very good. I like that. Thank
All
you,
right.
Rafa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you.